In a world increasingly marked by uncertainty, chaos, and rapid global transformations, many Christians and biblical scholars are closely examining scriptural prophecies that seem to be unfolding before our very eyes. The concept of the end times has captivated believers and sparked intense theological discussions for generations, but today, we're witnessing an unprecedented convergence of prophetic indicators that suggest we might be living in the final stages of human history as described in biblical texts. The Bible, particularly books like Daniel, Revelation, Matthew, and 2 Timothy, provides a complex and detailed roadmap of events that are supposed to precede the second coming of Jesus Christ. These prophetic writings outline a series of global and spiritual developments that would signal the approaching end of the current age. What makes our current era so remarkable is the remarkable alignment of these biblical predictions with contemporary global events. One of the most significant signs highlighted in Scripture is the unprecedented level of global turmoil and geopolitical instability. The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24, describes a time of increasing wars and rumors of wars, where nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. When we survey the current global landscape, we see precisely this pattern emerging. The ongoing conflicts in various regions, the escalating tensions between global superpowers, and the constant threat of potential military confrontation seem to mirror Christ's prophetic words almost exactly. The Middle East, in particular, has long been considered a critical focal point for end times prophecy. Biblical scriptures consistently point to this region as the epicenter of major prophetic events. The establishment of Israel as a nation in 1948 was itself seen by many theologians as a monumental fulfillment of biblical prophecy, setting the stage for further prophetic developments. The ongoing tension surrounding Jerusalem, a city of immense spiritual and geopolitical significance, continue to align with scriptural predictions about end times scenarios. Another profound indicator mentioned in biblical prophecy is the concept of global apostasy, or a widespread falling away from genuine faith. The Apostle Paul, in his second letter to the Thessalonians, warns about a rebellion or a massive spiritual decline that would precede Christ's return. In our current cultural context, we're witnessing an unprecedented erosion of traditional Christian values, a dramatic rise in secular humanism, and a growing indifference or outright hostility towards biblical teachings. This spiritual decay is not just limited to individual belief systems but is manifesting in societal institutions, legal frameworks, and cultural narratives. The marginalization of Christian perspectives, the redefinition of fundamental moral concepts, and the increasing normalization of behaviors traditionally considered contrary to biblical teachings all point to the prophetic warning of a widespread spiritual deterioration. Technological advancements present another fascinating dimension of end times prophecy. The Book of Revelation describes a future scenario where global communication and economic systems will be so interconnected that they can effectively monitor and control individual economic participation. The rise of digital technologies, artificial intelligence, blockchain systems, and global digital infrastructure bears an uncanny resemblance to these ancient prophetic descriptions. The development of technologies that can track financial transactions, monitor personal data, and create comprehensive digital profiles of individuals mirrors the biblical description of a system that could potentially implement a mark controlling economic participation. While we're not suggesting these current technologies are the exact prophetic fulfillment, they certainly demonstrate the technological potential for such a system. Global health crises and pandemics, another aspect of end times prophecy, have taken on new significance in recent years. Biblical texts speak of pestilences and widespread diseases as part of the end times landscape. The COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated the global vulnerability to rapid disease transmission and the potential for worldwide disruption, echoing scriptural warnings about unprecedented health challenges. Environmental changes and natural disasters represent another critical prophetic indicator. The Bible describes increasing environmental instability, with passages in Luke and Revelation pointing to unprecedented geological and meteorological events. The current acceleration of climate change, increasing frequency of extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and environmental disruptions align remarkably with these prophetic descriptions. The emergence of a global system of governance is another significant prophetic theme. Biblical prophecies, particularly in the books of Daniel and Revelation, speak of a future consolidated global political and economic system. The increasing interconnectedness of global institutions, the growing influence of transnational organizations, and the push for unified global responses to challenges like climate change and pandemic suggest a trajectory toward the kind of unified global governance described in scriptural prophecies. Spiritual deception is another crucial end times theme. Jesus himself warned about the rise of false prophets and false messiahs who would deceive many. In our current information landscape, characterized by widespread misinformation, alternative narratives, and complex ideological manipulations, we're seeing a manifestation of this prophetic warning. The ability to create convincing false narratives through advanced communication technologies makes spiritual deception more potent and widespread than ever before. The prophetic emphasis on moral decline is particularly striking. Biblical texts describe a time when societal moral standards would dramatically shift, with people calling evil good and good evil. The current cultural landscape, with its rapid redefinition of fundamental moral concepts, blurring of traditional boundaries, and increasing moral relativism, seems to be a precise fulfillment of these ancient prophetic warnings. The persecution of genuine believers is another consistent theme in end times prophecy. The Bible warns of increasing hostility towards those who maintain biblical Christian beliefs. Globally, we're witnessing a rising tide of religious persecution, with Christians facing increasing challenges in various parts of the world, from legal discrimination to violent suppression. Economic instability and growing global inequity also feature prominently in biblical end times descriptions. The current global economic landscape, characterized by increasing wealth concentration, periodic economic crises, and growing disparities between affluent and impoverished populations, resonates with prophetic warnings about economic turbulence preceding major global transformations. It's crucial to understand that these prophetic indicators are not meant to induce fear but to provide hope and spiritual preparedness. The biblical narrative consistently emphasizes that these developments are not random chaos but part of a divinely orchestrated plan leading towards ultimate redemption and restoration. While no one can predict the exact timing of prophetic fulfillment, the convergence of these biblical signs in our current era is unprecedented. Each indicator, when examined individually, might seem circumstantial. However, when viewed collectively, they present a compelling narrative of prophetic alignment. For believers, these signs are not just academic observations but a call to spiritual vigilance, deepened faith, and active engagement in God's redemptive purposes. They serve as a reminder to live with eternal perspectives, prioritizing spiritual values over temporal concerns. The biblical end times narrative is fundamentally a message of hope. Despite the challenging developments described, the overarching theme is one of divine intervention, ultimate justice, and the establishment of a new order characterized by peace, righteousness, and genuine reconciliation. As we navigate these complex times, the invitation is to approach these prophetic indicators not with sensationalism or fear, but with spiritual discernment, hope, and a commitment to living out authentic faith in challenging circumstances. The signs are indeed mounting. The prophetic pieces are increasingly falling into place, and for those who understand biblical prophecy, the message is clear: we are living in extraordinarily significant times, potentially on the cusp of major divine interventions in human history.